Hi, I'm Alex Pault, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. Let's open up the box. I'm not going to pull out anything specific at this moment, but since we're talking about collecting, I'll reach in from time to time and pull something out maybe to address a point. I'm not going to try to keep this episode relatively short. We'll see if I can get away with that. Watch check. I'm wearing my Zenith Rainbow. Beautiful piece. There is a video up on it, if I believe, in the archive. If not, I'll make sure it goes up pretty quickly. First things first, I had been talking about a subscription drive and all of that, and I thought I'd give away copies of my book, Cyberchild. It's a science fiction novel, came out about 10 years ago, was reviewed in Analog magazine, and was a reasonably successful science fiction novel for a small, unknown publishing company out of Manhattan and a first-time science fiction writer. I make my daily bread with tech writing, but the muse strikes me, and I wrote the novel about some interesting thoughts I had about the future. So the person who won the first book, I'm going to give away one a month. See, I'm not good at this kind of stuff. I'm a content guy. I'm not very good at the videoing and the promotional and all of that other. But I'm giving it away. The first person to get it is their handle, one of our subscribers, is KIMHRIKZ1. I sent a note to your YouTube channel page, so you've got a heads up that you've got a book coming. What I'm going to do is once a month mail a book. I'm just going to order it on Amazon and have it mailed to you, so that way you don't have to worry about any weird packages coming. It's going to be right from the Amazon listing for Cyberchild Online. I'm just going to order a copy and mail it to you. If you want a signed copy, I'll ping me with an email and I'll sign a little book seal, something you can glue into the book with a dedication, and then you just paste it into the book. I did that once with Isaac Asimov. I called him when I was 10 years old, and he suggested that's how I get his signatures into my books. I still have one of those books that with a pasted-in signature of his. But onward to talking about watches. I've had questions about quality versus quantity and investing in watches, and can you make money with watches? And interestingly enough, I saw a recent interview of Paul Pluta, Archie Luxury, who's I like him. He's a funny guy, and he also knows his watches really well. And he was asked why he wouldn't become a dealer, and he said he loves this. He would love his stock too much, and not to mention the hassles of being a business owner. In my case, I like watches, and now that I no longer have a car to maintain, and my children are adults, and now I have the time and the resources to at least spend some money on watches. And if you put a few dollars here and there over time, it can develop into something. So I wanted to address those issues on financing and investment and what my thoughts are on it. Full disclosure, my collection's roughly worth about 50,000 euros, split among about 17 watches. I've currently got a Tudor Prince Date, the Tiger Blueface. I've got one of those on order, and I'll have to pick that up at the end of the month. And I just sold two of my Seamasters. I still have the Seamaster Polaris. It's a great collectible. It's a little-known Gerald Genta watch design. It's a 7750 Valjoux in it. Beautiful piece. Now, I'll use that as an example when I touch on the issues of quality versus quantity in the collection and value of pieces. But I wanted to start by saying I don't consider watch collecting to really be about money. It's like being into cars. Unfortunately, they cost money. If it were something else that didn't require as much financial investment, I would be into it. I used to be a big car guy. My father was a mechanic, And I used to buy beat up Porsches and restore them myself and drive them. And I saved quite a lot of money in that sense, that it was cheaper for me to drive a Porsche 944 that I restored myself. But any car is a hole in the ground that you throw money into. A boat's worse, but cars aren't that far off of it if you think about maintenance and insurance and keeping it up. And especially if you're someone like me who would actually want to tweak it or do something to it, it gets expensive. And the nice thing about watches, at least, is if you invest in watches, you will, the biggest issue of cars, mileage, depreciation, that's not really an issue. With watches, of course, with extreme age come issues of servicing, but watches are safer in that sense than cars. That the money that you invest in them can be gotten out, or I should say most of it can be gotten out. But be all and end all, I don't believe in collecting as a way to make money, but I do believe that if you are creative in your collecting and flexible in your purchasing and buying and selling, you can use your finances to accumulate value in a watch collection and then retain that value. If you want to just speculate and flip watches, I have no advice for you. I really don't. I buy a couple of cheap Rolexes, as cheap as you can get them, hold on to them for a short time, and flip them. I mean, if you want to make money. But I can resonate with Paul Pluta. If you really want to sell and it's something you love, then you're actually not really a collector, you're a dealer. You're trading in watches. You're not really a watch collector in that sense. I mean, obviously you could be a watch collector and still deal, but then you wind up dealing in the things that you love and have to make difficult decisions about your inventory. In my case, I buy watches that I find are reasonably priced, and I wear them, and some of them I fall in love with, and some of them I don't. The ones I don't, I sell. And then I take the money from those sales and I buy more watches, and I inject whatever money I can afford into it. As far as that goes, I'd go with what the gold and precious metals traders say. They say, put about 5% of your investment of your money, investable money, 5 to 10% into precious metals. I would say put 5 to 10% of your investable money into watches. Depending, I'm a technical writer. I do freelance work on the side. I just recently signed a longer contract with a larger organization as a magazine editor for a technical publication called Evaluation Engineering. But prior to that, the last 5 or so years, I was a freelance technical writer making as little as 60 and as much as 90,000 in a given year. And when I could afford it, I'd put some money towards the watch collection. When I sold my car, because I worked from home for the last 5 years, I put that money into the watch collection, and it's paid itself back in a way, because now the collection is independent of my finances, and it is a value store. I'm not making any real money from the collection. I don't get a profit, as it were, but if I lost my job tomorrow, I could flip some watches and have enough money to eat, and I'd still have some watches. So a well-curated collection can really make a difference in your financial situation as well. And like I said, I'm not talking about investing and expecting big gains, because I don't believe you're going to do that unless you're seriously going to deal in watches. And that's a totally different set of rules, a totally different set of assumptions. I'm talking about being an active collector and using the collection as leverage to either leverage the collection upwards or leverage the collection into different directions. And that's what touches on the issue of quality versus quantity. I had some notes, because some of this is based on questions that I got from you, the audience. So quality versus quantity is a really nebulous thing, because, not everybody can afford watches. When I was a working guy with a wife and 2 kids, I wore a Seiko, $500 watch. I was really pleased with it. It was a nice one, chronograph, and I'm quite proud of that watch, and I would probably wear it again if I could find that model, because Seikos make nice watches. I have a Seiko spring drive here, There's a video up on that. You should take a look. It's an interesting piece. But like I said, quality versus quantity. To make a bad pun, one man's fish is another man's poisson. The Everything is a judgment call. What some people would consider a cheap watch, other people would consider an aspirational watch. And what some people would consider an aspirational watch, others might consider a nice watch, but, you should see this. So that's why I was saying about the Omega. This is a Omega Polaris. It's an interesting design, titanium and gold. So right off the bat, being a two-tone, it takes a hit in the current market. And the fact that it's an Omega with a 7750 in it makes it horologically as interesting as this Universal Genève Senna, which also has a Valjoux 7750 in it. I'm going to actually do a video comparing these two watches because although they're made of different materials, they both were trying to make a design statement: titanium, carbon, plastic. They say carbon in it, but the links aren't even, these black plastic links aren't even load-bearing. They're appliqued to the metal links. It's a carbon-bearing plastic. It's not really a carbon fiber material. But yes, so that argument is a very difficult argument to make, quality versus quantity. What is quality in your eyes? Now, we can talk about quantity, but let me I just realized I have one more good example. I'm going to make, this will be actually my next video after I shoot this. I'm going to be, my friend let me borrow his Bulova Moon Pilot, and I'm going to do a little side-by-side with my Speedmaster. And so this is a perfect example of quality. These are both really nice watches. You could get this one used for about $350 to $400, and you can get this one used for about $3,500. So this is literally about 10 times as expensive as this. Is it 10 times as good? I don't think it's 10 times as good. I think it's significantly better. I guess if you say it's an order of magnitude better, it is 10 times as good. But it's expressed in a lot of interesting ways because this is a damn good watch. So quality versus quantity is a very, very slippery term, because is that quality? If you're a Star Wars fan, it is. For all I know, one day because this is a legitimate licensed Star Wars R2-D2 watch, was given away by a grocery store chain here in Germany. For all I know, because everybody threw theirs away, this is the last one left. This will wind up being more value than everything else in my collection downstream. You never know. So quality versus quantity is a very, very difficult thing to say. Now, I have had friends who I've made fun of who own $100, $500 watches. Bankers, people who can afford it, and they buy a lot of what I would consider not junk watches, but frankly, would you rather have 10 of these or one of these? Some people would rather have, a Citizen, a Casio, a Seiko, a couple of other pieces, a couple of G-Shocks. That's a perfectly legitimate way to collect. So on that same note, someone could look at me and say, well, you've got a case full of 5,000 euro watches. Why don't you get yourself 3 good ones, right? Because to them, probably the only watch in some of these people's eyes is my Rolex Explorer. And they'd say, oh, not bad, good start. The Rolex Explorer isn't even really considered a mainstream wanted Rolex. It's the last tool watch they ever made. I have a video on my thoughts on this. It's a really nice watch. But to some collectors, this is like the beginning of my collection, and the rest could just be tossed out the window. There are people who would disdain my Marie Lacroix flyback annual calendar because it's a modular movement, although it's got incredible finish. And if you take a look at the video I did on it, you'll see it's really a value, good price value as well, because that watch sold new for something in the $7,000 range, and I picked it up for a couple thousand. So again, it's I paid 2,000 euros for that watch. it's still quality to me. That's a lot of money to me. The most expensive watch in my collection, I paid €5,500 for. I mean, for some people, wow, that's a lot of money. But for some collectors, they're like, you're scraping the surface. Sell all this crap and buy yourself, a Patek. Buy yourself something nice. So it's all about the eye of the beholder in that. So, and as far as quantity goes, I actually am trying to consolidate, keep the number low, because I tend to fall in love with watches and then I buy them and then I have too many watches. And, well, luckily for me, then I turn around and I sell them and I buy better watches, or I shouldn't say better watches, watches that are more in the direction where I want my collection to go. So, for example, I just sold those two Seamasters, and I'm probably going to keep the Tudor for a year and sell it maybe sooner, maybe later. I might fall in love with it. I don't know. But I'm not going to make a significant amount of money selling it. I might make a small profit holding on to a Tudor Tiger for a year and selling it. But I'm expecting just to get pretty much what I paid out of it. But I've had an opportunity to enjoy and have the pleasure of ownership of that piece for a year or maybe more, depending on how I feel about it. But I'm going to be 60 next year, and I think I want to buy myself something really special. And I have been looking at an IWC Perpetual calendar, and used those run 8 to 10,000. So I'm going to have to sell some watches and keep my pennies together, and I'll be able to get that with luck by fall in time for my birthday. So quality versus quantity, investing monetarily, those are all very personal things. And I can't even begin to give you advice on that, but I can give you advice on what to think about when you are buying. Never buy a watch because you think other people will like it and you can sell it, unless you are a dealer. Because you've got to wear that watch. You've got to look at that watch every day or every other day, depending on when you wear it. And if you don't like that watch, it's just going to be ashes in your mouth until you sell it. And you might sell it badly because you'll rush to sell it because you don't like it, and then you lose money on the deal. Always buy watches that you want to wear yourself personally. It's your collection. Don't buy what you think other people will like. Don't wear a watch just so that other people will look at it. Wear a watch that you enjoy looking at. Good example of that is I've got an Omega Globemaster here on a NATO strap. I've got people who think I'm an insane person for putting a $5,500 watch on a $20 cloth strap, but it's comfortable and I think it looks nice. I'm not wearing these watches to impress other people. I'm wearing these watches because I'm a technology geek, and I love looking at fine mechanisms, and I appreciate art, and I love the craftsmanship that goes into these pieces and the history of these pieces and what they represent and the beauty of these pieces. I do have a couple of pieces that I got because of what they represent historically, but then I wound up liking them and keeping them. Like I got this, my tuning fork, Accutron. This is an $800 watch. It's got so much history and legacy in it. It can be paired with the Speedmaster in terms of aerospace history. The Accutron was right up alongside the Speedmaster at every step. It was worn by X-15 pilots. GMT version was. Phenomenal piece. It could be run electronically, low mass parts. It could handle high Gs. It was perfect at the time that it came out, before quartz, of course. So quality versus quantity, dollar values, collect. And when you get tired of a piece, don't get angry at it or something, sell it and take that money and buy something you like. And yeah, I guess that's about all I really have to say on the topic, because I already addressed speculation versus investing. And the way I look at it is there is money involved in this hobby, and you can use that money as a value store, as a shock against financial problems, for example. If I'm here in Germany. If heaven forbid something really weird happened and I'm a foreigner, I had to leave the country, I'll stuff all these watches in a backpack and I'll have much better value retention than somebody who might worry about their assets being seized or, by some crazy takeover government or something like that. I mean, Germany's pretty stable, but look what's going on in the world right now. And frankly, if I were trying to cross a border, I'd get much further bribing a border guard with a nice watch than I am with a bar of gold or something else that he's probably seen 100 million refugees give him, being a little bloody-minded. But watches are a fun hobby, a really beautiful hobby, a great way to invest your money and mind, because you're not going to make a lot of money off of it, but you can retain value, and you can get most of the money you put into them out of it. So even if you say, for example, buy a watch and get hosed, right? Let's say I bought this for $5,500. This is a Jaeger-LeCoultre Polaris no date, and let's say I really needed money, and I took it in and I got hosed by a dealer. Somebody gives me $3,000 for it. I still got 3,000 euros for it. Now, yes, it's half, but that's jewelry transaction prices, or actually 9 times out of 10 with jewelry, you just get the gold weight back. And if you take the time to sell this well, you can make a profit. So watches are not, in my opinion, a way to get rich quick or to develop a big portfolio of cash, but I do feel that it is a way to have a great hobby that you can enjoy thoroughly, and pass on some value to your kids when you go, because every single one of these watches are going to wind up in my daughter's hands when I leave this earth, because I'm not taking any of them with me. So, and they can decide to wear them or sell them, whatever they decide. But watches as investment, look at it, like I said, precious metals collecting. 5 to 10% of your income, wisely husbanded over a few years, can yield to a really nice collection that you can sell in time of trouble, or you can sell to upgrade or leverage in a direction you'd like. So those are my thoughts on investing and watch collecting as far as value goes. If you have any questions, please leave a message, and please subscribe and get a chance to win my book. So thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And next episode, we'll be doing the review on the Bulova Moon Pilot. So thanks for taking the time to be with me. Have a great day.